Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Money Talk at Campus, the podcast where students talk real finance, real stories, and the everyday challenge around money. I'm Subhranshu, your host from Prashita, and today's episode is close to every student's heart. Why financial literacy deserves a spot in every classroom. Joining me are two young minds from the PGDM program, Shraddha, who comes from a commerce background, and Srishti, who made it the shift from science to finance.
Hey Shubhranshu, I am very excited to be on this podcast today. So, here is a bit about me. I am a BCom grad, which means I've spent years in accounts and economics textbooks. But here's the real on ground reality from my side. Despite all those degrees, I still feel that there is a massive gap when it comes to practical finance. Like, how does all that theoretical jargons which we have studied in our books actually play out in our real life? How do those balance sheets or macro trends influence our day to day money moves? That curiosity is what brought me here today, to bridge that gap between bookish concepts and real world finance.
Hello everyone. I'm super excited to join this conversation. I have done my graduation in BSc Maths. That means I have been studying physics, chemistry, maths all throughout my schooling and graduation. When I joined the PGTA program, finance felt like a very alien subject to me. But slowly I built my interest in it. And now when I study something related to finance, I feel like there is so much more to learn and explore in finance today.
And that is exactly what we are going to unpack today. Why young people, regardless of their background, deserve real financial education much earlier in life. And let's start from the beginning. Shraddha and Srishti, do you remember the first time you even heard the terms like SIP, credit card, or maybe stock market?
Well, I think yes, it all started back when I was in class 11th and I had one of my subject as business studies. It sounds very fancy, but honestly, it was all about mugging up those definitions and there was no real world conversation. Like I remember when I first learned the term credit card and I was thinking that, oh, okay, credit card means borrowed money. That's cool. But that was it. No one told us about that billing cycles, what are those credit limits and interest rates, and also how easy it is to fall into a debt traps. All those years, we were just thinking that credit cards are some sort of magic plastics that these adult people use to swipe their way of happiness.
And if I talk about myself, it was only when I was in college I heard about term like SIP. Way after I was 18, like someone said SIP, and I thought it was a kind of a legal term. And awareness about mutual funds to me is zero. Whatever I've heard is only in the advertisements that I saw on television or in banner and sort of things. So if I talk about science students, they barely touch about finance as a subject, or they if it is only when they explore themselves, they get to know more about it. So in schools, we are only taught about focusing on marks. We are not never taught about how to manage your money. Like it's very bad situation at.
Gap is real and you guys are not alone. Here is a fact. India has over 400 million young people, but only 27% are considered, financially literate. That is not just a statistic, but that is a red flag.
Yes, even though I was a commerce student, most of what I learned was pure theory. They teach us debit this, credit that, journal entries everywhere. But when it comes to real life stuff like reading a salary slip or figuring out how that tax is actually calculated, we are totally blank on it. It was only after I started joining my PGDM that all those pieces back then finally starts clicking. That's when I realized knowing about finance and knowing about accounts is one thing, but understanding how money actually works in our real life, that's a whole different game.
And if I talk about myself, I never heard for a term like demat account, never seen that even before joining the PGTM program. It was my peers. Through them, I learned like what is demat account. At this age, they started investing, and I know nothing about investing. So it was like I was thrown into adulthood, and I was supposed to make big financial decision without knowing the basic tools of finance even. So this is the gap that I felt like that time.
Exactly, which is why it is so important that we talk about financial literacy not just at the PC level, but right from school or undergrad. And that brings us to a very interesting thought. If students could design their own financial curriculum, what would they actually want to learn? All right, so imagine you could go back to your 17 or 18-year-old self and demand a real world finance subject in your school or undergrad. What would it include?
Well, what should it include? If you ask me, I would say practical budgeting should be the chapter number one. Like, they don't used to just throw us formulas. Actually, walk us through how to survive in a 5,000 monthly allowance. Show us how to break it down between our needs and wants. How to prioritize our rent, how to prioritize our food, phone bills, and still we can keep 500 in savings. Because let's just be real, nobody wants us about that mid month cash crunches and how that one impulsive weekend plan can blow up our whole budget. And when you are living in a hostel or in a PG, that is basically a real life crash course in money management. But in my opinion, why should it be all trial and error? We should learn it in a smart way as well.
I completely agree with Shraddha. Like, this is what I face also, and I want to learn about more. And if I talk from my side, it would be tax basics because this is something I remember very vividly when I was working in my family business in this summer, and I get to, hear about discussions like GST, TDS came up. I was completely lost. I never heard about like input credit or quarterly billing. These were like I used to nod there and think like I have understood everything, but I was actually clueless. I need to understand how taxation actually works. When also it will help me when I will going to earn my money. So I definitely it is not the bifurcation between a science graduate or a commerce graduate. This is something everyone should know, and not just like that. It should. I also think like they can also teach some basic banking stuff like how we can avoid simple thing like minimum balance charges or what happens like when we do not pay our credit card bills or we pay it late. So this is something which is important, and we learn it the hard way. But I want to learn it earlier. I wanted to learn it earlier so that I could know, I could have managed my money better now. And one more thing, as a math student, I want to say that compound interest. Guys, what a magic it is, and how it is the secret sauce in today's time for wealth creation. And nobody taught us like that. Nobody explained how it is implied. I was just taught the formula and nothing more than that. So I really want to learn more about that as well. Like, these are my suggestions.
That is so true. Imagine if a student understood EMI trap, PF deduction, or even basic like inflation by the time they left undergrad. The financial decision they would have make would be so much better. What would either of you attended a free workshop on a personal finance if it is offered back then?
Well, any day, yes, without any doubt. Even now, I used to look for YouTube videos or reels on Instagrams, which explains how to plan our investment. There is some sort of curiosity in me for sure, but I would say there is no structured space for it. It has to be created.
And I think we can definitely have 1 to 2 session during the school, like how we approach our money in 20s. So I think we should better normalize the conversation about money way earlier, even when before we start earning. So yeah.
Well said, and that is exactly the kind of change Prashuta is working toward, which brings us to our final segment, how you can take the first step. So here is your money action step for the week. Ask yourself this: do I know where my money is going this month? If the answer is I think so, it's time to track it better. At Prashuta, we are building a student-led finance movement from DMAT guidance and SIP workshop to one-on-one well help with salary slip and credit scores. If you are a student listening and want to join the movement, attend our next workshop, or even better, join this podcast.
Very well said, Shubhranshu. Honestly, having this conversation here made me realize that there is still so much I don't know. But yeah, that's okay because at least now I know where to begin.
And for me, I'm just going to call my bank now and going to figure out what my credit score is for today so that I can plan better.
That is the kind of accent we would love to hear. And follow us on Instagram and DM us if you want to be featured on our next episode. Thanks for turning into Money Talks at Campus with where finance literacy mid campus vibes. This is Subhranshu signing off. See you next time.